Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello, and welcome to episode 177 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. Today, we're talking momentum in a bunch of different contexts. With me today, as always, it's my friend who flies a Cherokee 180. The Cherokee's name is Lucy. His name is Brian. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Glad to be here. We're doing it on a different night tonight, and I kind of like it. And episode 177. So this is the cardinal episode.
Cardinal episode of all episodes. Very good. Also joining us out from the West Coast, it's our friend Timestamp Tedder. Good evening, sir.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. It's more toasted from the sun, Tedder, today.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Some nice, pretty weather out there in Portland.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, it's 46 degrees this morning when I woke up. That's pretty cold for April in Georgia. I'll just do that right now. So, Brian, tell me, what you been up to?
Oh, goodness. Let's see. Well, as would make, I guess, sense for our topic this evening, I am recapturing some of the momentum that I built from my instrument pursuits. And now that I'm out of the weeds of airplane issues and annuals and things, back on the books, man. I'm studying, going back through it. And it's hard, because, you have to have a little bit of momentum. Makes it a little easier. I actually have kind of had to work my way back into it a little bit, but I've been basically studying for commercial. It's a little bit strange in the sense that I've already passed the written and the AGI. And while I'm doing this, simultaneously giving ground instruction, And it's a little strange that I'm going to have to pay somebody to teach me qualifying ground for commercial, of which I'm qualified to teach myself, but I have to pay somebody to, it's weird, but it doesn't matter. Most of it, all the ground stuff is done, but there's just ground things that the instructor has to do. That is, they have to talk to you. So
I would suggest that I'm sure this instructor already knows that you're a ground instructor, but just say, I'm going to be watching you closely. I'm going to be grading you. There'll be a rating after this.
I'm walking softly with that because while I may be qualified, boy, have a lot of those little nuggets drifted away quickly. And as I'm studying commercial and it's private pilot on steroids, it's tough. Wendell Geek's asking, as an AGI, can you sign yourself off for the written test? No, I cannot. There is a specifically written clause that bans self-endorsement. Oh, so
not to
believe me, I tried
self-promotion.
No. So anyway, that's really what I've been up to this week is just getting ready and getting set to actually fly an airplane again instead of thinking about procedures and flying around where I can't see and just looking at instruments. It's going to be fantastic. And when my instructor said, when she said that, tomorrow we're going to be doing, chandelles and steep turns and power off 180s, I was elated because I love flying airplanes, and especially when you can look outside. So
when was the last time you did a steep turn?
Actually, the last time I flew, I've been kind of getting ahead of this a little bit.
Yep.
So, and it actually went surprisingly well, which means that it'll probably be very poor tomorrow with an audience.
I've found with the different flying that I've been doing, if I don't do a steep turn over a year period, it's just like everything else. It's a perishable skill. It takes 2 or 3 and you're really kind of right back in the swing of things. Especially so if you're already starting to do them, you'll be ahead of the curve.
Yeah. I can't wait for that to be the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's compared to instrument, it's like, okay, if I'm having trouble with a steep turn, it's not complex calculus to figure out how to resolve the issue. Yeah. And it's not, well, if you look at the 74 things you did beforehand, that is why this house of cards fell apart. It's a little bit more straight ahead. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, that's basically what I've been up to, is just preparing and getting excited about knocking out commercial. And one day I'm going to be somebody.
I have no doubt.
I like it. Yeah.
Ted, anything exciting going on with you?
Yeah. Well, last weekend I stood around in the glider field because the weather was marginal. This weekend it was, by Monday, Tuesday, I thought it was going to be 50-50 for the weekend, and ended up being just pristine weather. So I had 2 full days of glider flying, and it was a lot of fun. Was going up, and about 90 minutes into it, my instructor looks in front of him, I guess, not figuratively looks over. It's like, you want to keep going? I'm like, yeah. We come down for the next one. You want to do another one? Yeah. It's like, my brain can handle this. I'm not getting exhausted, because a lot of the skills are the same as flying a powered plane. There are things to learn, but it's been relatively easy, and knock on wood, it's gone pretty well. So
every time they release the cord, you go, oh, we lost our engine.
It's actually, being on tow is the hardest part to learn. I didn't think this would be much of an issue at all. Boy, it took me a lot to get used to that. On the other hand, I then slept on it the next day. Everything was so much better. And it's like, okay,
you've got to maintain to make sure that the line doesn't get way too much slack in it. Yeah. Only to have it pop back and snap.
Yeah. Well, and going through turns and putting the nose at the correct spot, trying to pace the plane in front of you on how much it's turning. Yeah. That's it's some skills.
It's formation.
Landing.
Flying.
Yeah. Landing is fine. I said to my instructor, I said, I just need to get the sight picture. And once I get that, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Except there's no power when you need to go around. So you want to make sure to get it right. And yeah. But with the air brakes, it's like, it's great. You just choose where you want to land and put it in, take it back out. It's not like flaps on a power off landing. Right. With the air brakes, you just keep pulling them in and out and getting to be right where you want to be. So it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Do you find that, is there any part of your experience that made you think, wow, I wish I would have done this perhaps sooner, or even, I don't know, before you even flew a powered aircraft?
I am very glad to have started powered. I think that conversion seems to work pretty well. I think it would be a lot tougher, some of the concepts starting in gliders, for me at least. Like my brain just works well that way. And so doing this is kind of just an extension of our powered flight experience. So yeah, of course I'd like to do it sooner, but I'd like to do tail wheel stuff sooner too. So, time to drink. So it's all, it's just another great skill, and it's a lot of fun.
Do you still get a fuel bill from the FBO and you just go, what?
No, but I do think, especially in when there's no lift, so you're just getting toes up and back down, it is more expensive than flying our powered planes. Even a rented plane, it's more expensive than that.
How much is a tow?
Tow to 3,500 feet is $80, and that will get you just under half an hour of airtime. Towing to the pattern or less, I do a lot of like simulated rope breaks at 600 feet, all the way down to about 200 feet. And those are less. I'm not sure how much they are though. I'll get a bill at the end of the month, and I'm sure I'll be horrified by it.
I've really enjoyed watching glider tow videos on YouTube with people flying the air tractors and whatnot, the Pawnees.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a part of me that wants to do that. It just seems like a really fun job for a summer or something.
At this glider port, they have their own field, which is nice. You're you can just take all the time you want and you're not blocking the runway for anyone. And technically it's 2 runways. You have a left and a right. So you take off on one and you land on the other, and it tends to be one way in and reverse that and use that same. You don't fly in a loop on these runways, but on this specific one. But they seem to be needing tow pilots. That seems to be something that there are not enough of. You basically need your high performance endorsement, 25 hours of tail wheel time, and then a checkout in by the safety guy. But the Pawnee is a single seater, so first time you get in it, you're
checking yourself out.
You got to do it, yeah. So, and they said they give you like $10 a tow. So it's actually not a ton of money, but it'd be again, somebody's paying you to fly their plane. So
you're not incurring the fuel bill. That's like $50 an hour.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
very lots of good safety things from that. Learning how to operate with a running tow plane in front of you, and how to think about through that type of thing when you're doing all the ground operations. So
gotcha.
I liked how that translates, because I'm not used to standing behind a running engine of a plane. So that's new for me. How about you, Ben? You've had a busy week.
Yeah. I'll start out with the Beast came back about 6 hours after I left for Sun and Fun. So I have not had a chance to get up, but tomorrow I'm going to go up and go talk to a couple of different schools for, speaking of momentum, buying some multi-block time. And then, went down with, I think I saw him in the chat, Lord Alpha Juliet, our friend Steven, who's also a member of their club, and Captain Jeff from the Airline Pilot Guide. All 4 of us piled in the 206 and had a great flight down there. And if anybody has flown with Lord Alpha Juliet, it's always an adventure. There's birds to avoid about 80% of the time. While that's not his fault, it just seems like he has to duck and dodge more often than others. We got into the arrival procedure, and as soon as we turned into it and started heading that way, the Thunderbirds decided to arrive at Sun and Fun. So we got put into a hold. No big deal. I'll give Lord Alpha Juliet a shout out. Every time where the controllers sit on the arrival, you go over these smokestacks and they ask you to rock your wings every time so they know that you're staying in touch with them. And I'm not going to say he came pretty close to doing a barrel roll, but it was almost a knife edge maneuver to the point where the controller was saying, "That was a tremendous rock." And so we did 4 laps in the hold. And on the last one, the controller actually said, "I thought you were going to barrel roll that thing." Then he asked us where we were from. We said the Atlanta area.
You said, "I'm not telling."
And then he said, "I'm a controller at Hartsfield, at the tower at Hartsfield."
Oh.
So got in. He did a great landing. And we just had a great time. It was really cool. Got to spend a little bit of time with Aviation 101, Josh and Chelsea. I know, Brian, you know them pretty well, and they asked about you and Luke. And saw a couple of other YouTubers out there, didn't get to spend a lot of time with. I really wanted to see if I couldn't shake some hands of to have a career fair there. For me, unfortunately, it was basically all Part 121 carriers. And that's fine. It's just not my thing. So I had a couple other missions that I wanted to get done there. I got a couple of pricings on doing our avionics that we want to do just to compare to the prices that we got already. And we feel really good about the offer that we have that we'll take advantage one of these days, hopefully sooner than later. And it's a smaller version of Oshkosh. As everybody says, I think when I was at Osh, I was averaging around 20 to 20,000 steps a day, 20 to 21,000 steps a day. I was doing about 12 to 13,000. Now, we did have a media pass, and we did get some shuttle rides a pretty good bit, and that probably bit into it. But the food was the same as you get at Oshkosh. The air show was fantastic. We actually got to see the night show there. That was really cool. And the STOL competition was also a lot of fun to watch. So great experience, easy flight back home. The departure, well, again, it's a smaller version. And we left in the morning, typically on Saturday. This is typically when people are coming in for the day, doing day trips to Sun and Fun. So there wasn't a really long line to get out, but it was a pretty easy taxi and very easy departure procedure. So I highly recommend, if you get a chance, go down to Lakeland, study the NOTAM. There was one guy that did come in that he was basically, we assumed the tower told him, go back and land and get the NOTAM and read it and then come back. Because I think what we heard was the pilot come on and say, I'm back. I read the NOTAM this time, or something to that effect. Yeah. So you can't just show up and say, hey, I'd like to land here.
Well,
fit me in.
The food can't be the same. I'm sure they don't have cheese curd tacos.
They don't have cheese curd tacos. They had a pretty wide variety, actually. There was a Chick-fil-A truck there.
Mm-hmm.
And there was I would say it's a lot of it's the same fried food that you get. But there was a Greek food station. There was a Greek food truck. I mean, there was a pretty good bit there. So
yeah,
it was really cool. So
awesome.
It was a good time had by all.
That's awesome. Yeah, they should have like a green M&M's rider kind of thing, where, because there's probably a lot of people that have just looked at the beginning of the NOTAM, but not really read the whole thing. And there's maybe some strange landmark that that they get sent. Anybody that's hovering over this particular landmark is singling themselves out as not having read the NOTAM.
Yeah.
Glad you had a good time, man. Now, as far as quick question, kind of related but unrelated, have you looked at a list of all the 135 operators around you?
I have.
Okay. And
let me clarify that. I've looked at a list of a lot of Part 135 operators that are remote opportunities. So they don't necessarily have to be based here in Atlanta, but they will airline you, they'll deadhead you to wherever they were to meet the plane.
Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't know, because I know you can get a list from the FAA website or from the FSDO that will just give you just a spreadsheet of every plane.
I do know I have reached out to every single one in the Atlanta metro area.
Have you done the John Cusack say anything move where you just stand outside with a boombox?
So, funny story. At McCollum, there's a Part 135 operator that has 4 King Airs, and they're King Air 200s. And I met one of their pilots, and their training is basically, it's a single pilot certified airplane. So their training is they're putting you as a SIC in the right seat. It's on the job training. You don't go to type rating. You don't do any of that, or certificate or cert training. And we had a great chat, and he kind of said, there's been a change in management. They've been hiring for this profile, but I think they're going to switch and start hiring for a profile that's closer to yours, to what, where you are in your aviation career. And so we were down at Sun and Fun, and I got on a LinkedIn post and an email saying they're hiring. They've just opened up a position. So within the hour, I sent them my resume and I filled out their online application. And I was starting to get a little excited about it. They posted minimum requirements and preferred requirements. Now, the minimums I met no problem, but the preferred, I hit maybe 2 out of 6.
Oh, right. Like professional demeanor.
No. Well, I mean, we all know that's going to be a challenge for me, but I don't have 100 hours of King Air time.
Right. Yeah.
So I will say, though, I got to know, which kind of excites me. I'm not getting ghosted. When somebody comes back and say, we appreciate you applying, we call it the TBNT, thanks, but no thanks. Yeah. I can reach back, this is the position I'm looking for. Can I stay in touch and let me know if it's one of those positions? So the lines of communication are open, and that's all I can really ask.
The job market is like that everywhere now. It's like, I would like an entry-level position at this thing. It's like, great. Well, if you can demonstrate that you have thousands of hours at this entry level thing, then we'll give you this entry. This is the paradox of our time right now, but it's all about networking. It's all about just pounding the pavement. And you're doing.
I had a friend tell me, I've got a good friend that's the chief pilot at Chick-fil-A. And I said, man, it would be great to meet him. But I've seen their requirements for their pilots, and they want 5,000 hours. And I mean, it's just because they're getting retired Delta pilots is what they're basically getting.
You should have said, I will meet him only on Sunday.
Our Sabbath is on Friday to Saturday, so I have to meet him on Sunday. That's the only time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it was, like I said, it was a great trip. Fun hang. Captain Jeff's great. They recorded an episode down there, and it was fun to watch them do their stuff down. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Why don't we get to some feedback, Brian? We've gotten a couple of things in the inbox.
Oh, yeah. Now, I don't know if we'll get to all these. Maybe I think we can. Okay, so one is short, one is long, and then there's another one that's short. Which one do you want, Ben?
I'll take the first one and let you take the second one because you kind of introduced this concept of too many pilots in an airplane, so I think that one's best suited for you.
Okay.
All right. This feedback comes in reference to Erica Gilbert's from Airsafe. Parachute-equipped flying. It was a Patreon extra that we did for everybody, and we got some feedback on it, so we wanted to share that. This comes to us from Jay, and Jay says, thanks for this presentation, Erica, and everyone for asking good questions. Informative, in quotes, isn't a sufficient word to satisfy what I'm feeling. It's more like thought-provoking. I'm nearly done with my Cirrus training and have watched all the videos in the Approach app, which I imagine is a Cirrus thing. Your presentation provided more details for me to consider and answer a few questions I've had. Thanks. So great feedback, and thanks for Erica for doing that for us.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So to be clear, that is, Patreon bonus content, of which we are going to be doing some more this week, aren't we?
I think so.
Yeah.
We are.
All right. Get ready, everybody.
That was from feedback from a listener had a suggestion on some additional content. So
that's right. So we'll get into that now. Longer feedback. I haven't read this, but I think that it wouldn't have been put in here unless it's ready to go. Okay. It's from Chris H. Nothing more dangerous than a plane full of pilots' feedback. In military flying, risk management and assignment of crew duties are two critical things that are addressed in a pre-flight briefing. If a flight happened to have an unusually senior crew member on board, either in rank or experience, we would be very intentional in designating who is actually in charge of the aircraft at any given point. One flight stands out from my time in our instructor pilot upgrade course. As the student, quote unquote, pilot in upgrade, I was acting in the next higher crew position, aka pretending to be the instructor pilot and the person in charge. In the other seat was the real instructor pilot, who was officially the PIC for the flight, but acting as a student for the purposes of my training. To add more layers, we had an evaluator pilot, think DPE, on board, giving my instructor his annual check ride. My instructor was still PIC, but the evaluator pilot could override him if a safety of flight issue came up. Because that wasn't enough, we had another evaluator pilot on board, evaluating the first evaluator pilot as part of his training. My instructor was still PIC, but it was this second evaluator that had ultimate override authority for safety of flight. Well, that's a lot.
That's Inception type stuff right there.
Yeah, we need to draw this out on a whiteboard. All right. During the briefing, we identified the single biggest risk to that flight was something happening and our 4 different people believing they had some level of authority in making a final decision. It came to pass that we did have a system malfunction at one of our stops, and just as it was briefed, the instructor pilot and both evaluators all began circling their respective wagons in defense of why their resolution and path forward was the appropriate plan. It eventually took some sharp words, and at the time some hurt feelings, to clearly identify who had the decision-making authority for that event in that phase of flight. Hint, it was still my instructor. Wow, that's a lot. One of the best aspects of military flying is the debrief at the end when rank and position and most importantly, ego are left at the door. Both evaluator pilots raised their hand and recognized they had jumped into the decision-making process when their role at the time was to contribute ideas and observe. They both highlighted how our number one risk from the briefing played out exactly as predicted. And we had a great discussion about what might have happened during a genuine emergency in the air versus a mechanical problem on the ground. For me, as the up-and-coming instructor pilot, it was a great lesson in threat and risk identification, conflict resolution up and down the chain, and humility in recognizing the role we play if we happen to not get it right. So thanks, Chris, for that. That's such a perfect example of too many cooks in the kitchen. And it's great that they have systems and ways to sort it out, even when it gets contentious or emotional or frustrating. There's a system in place to sort that out after the fact with no ego.
Chris was in the absolute best position out of the four of them because he had absolutely no authority at all to make any of the decisions, but he got to watch everything break down and learn from it without actually having to be a participant in it. So, but had a front row seat. So I thought that was a great experience for him.
Yeah.
Very cool. Ted, do you want to get the last one?
Yeah, I will. I was talking with Badger Pilot, would be Badger from the Badger VOR, if you don't know where he is, about our last episode on vetting pilots. And he reminded me of two things. I'll read what he said. He said, I had a bird strike at night while under the hood practicing partial panel. Thankfully, I had a good safety pilot with me. After that, I decided I always need somebody I trust and not just somebody on Facebook looking to split time. That was a good, and also he did I learned about flying from that podcast on that. It was called Geese Shattered Night Calm, which sounds like 4 random words. That's episode 102. I'll have a link in the show notes. But I told him, that's something I don't think about as a sport pilot because I can't safety pilot for anybody. That is a case where it is important who's flying with you and that you vet them. It's a case I didn't even think about. That's probably the one that happens the most often is a safety pilot next to you who doesn't have the hood on and who you're going to need help from and who's going to see things that you don't see.
Definitely.
Yeah. I thought that was a good reminder of that situation.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had probably scenarios where we've got somebody safety piloting for us, whether we know them or well or not, and it's, hey, can you just get off your phone? You know what I mean? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I picked up at that point, and I did listen to that episode. That was a good episode to listen to. Mr. Siskin, do you want to go ahead and hit the belly scrub?
We will knock it out here. All right. Everybody get your finger on the 30-second skip button on your podcast app.
I love how we're trying to promote things and you're encouraging people to skip it.
It's reverse psychology. Let's see if it works.
Let's see if it works. Okay, good.
I should embed something. Speaking of green M&Ms, we should put something in the middle of the belly scrub that announces the you've won
free T-shirt giveaway.
Yeah, right. Join our Patreon community and help us keep the Midlife Pilot podcast ad-free. Your support makes this show possible, and every membership level gets you into our incredibly active Discord community. Our Lando-matic members at just $1 a month, that's 25 cents per episode, get access to the community-level Discord channels where pilots connect, share experiences, and support each other at the Hershey bar level. And above, you'll unlock the full Patreon Discord channels with expanded access to discussions on instrument training, plane ownership, flight debriefs, safety, career changes, plus exclusive behind-the-scenes content, extended interviews, and deeper conversations that we cannot share anywhere else. And at the caps available level, you'll get into our Podcast Insiders channel where you can see how the show gets made and actually help us, come up with topics or things that you want to hear. So you can be a part of it. Plus 10% of every dollar goes directly to Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts. For everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, to support us on Patreon, send feedback, grab merch, check out the event info, read the blog, and more. Visit midlifepilotpodcast.com. And if you're enjoying the show, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We will read it on the show, and hit subscribe or follow in your podcast app so you never miss an episode, and it really helps other midlife pilots find us.
I want to send out a reminder to everybody. Send us your feedback on how you vet your passengers or safety pilots or other pilots flying in the plane with us. We'd like to build a document, if you will, a go-to, an FAQ, whatever you want to call it, and helping the community come up with ways how or giving different viewpoints on how you vet your passengers.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, we have a review somewhere. We missed that.
We do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ted, why don't you go ahead and hit the Patreon and the accomplishments, and maybe Brian can find it in the meantime.
Cool. Yeah. In Patreon world, I want to thank the people that have joined us. At the Landomatic level, we have Tin Man. At the Hershey Bar level, we have Andy R. and we have Ted H., who rejoined. At the Beast Stole Kit level, we have Brian J.
Thank you, everybody.
Something that happens at this age of our cohort of people is we all have the same name. So we have a lot of Marks and Brians. And
there's no Bens, but that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like in every classroom you were in, Brian, you probably had two others that were also named Brian. This is
in 20 years, this podcast will be inherited by somebody else, and they'll just be thanks to Dylan and to Dylan and Dylan.
Yeah.
And Tyler.
Hayden and Jaden. And the names are much more unique now. In Discord, I want to note some of the accomplishments that have happened in the last week. Mark R. got his commercial.
Congrats.
Derek F. Quote, first time getting paid to fly.
Yes.
That's awesome. Mike Alpha Golf said he passed his first passed my first IPC in actual.
Yes.
I think it's both first IPC and first IPC in actual are two separate categories that were both true. And Chef DV had their first solo cross country.
All right.
And there were a ton of replies about, oh man, that's when it gets fun and all that. We all have that same feeling, I think. That's,
Very cool. Brian, were you able to find the review?
I have a review here. It is called, I should find out who it's from. It's from GBR Sker. I don't know. The names get weird out there. It's called Finding the Centerline. As a student pilot in his late 60s this year, your podcast on the way home from flight lessons is the best possible thing I can do to stay centered and connected in this process. After one of those days where my ATC calls were about as clear as ordering a hamburger at an outside fast food microphone, your passion for flying and brutally honest approach to a lifetime of getting better is just what is needed. Can't thank you enough for helping more than you know with this later in life journey. Well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thanks for that review. Yeah, for sure.
That kind of hits the nail on the head. Head on the nail. Sorry.
Yeah.
Got a little confused there. So tonight we wanted to get into something that the three of us are all kind of experiencing right now, and it's momentum. And when Brian first, or Ted, I can't remember which one of you brought it up, but maybe it was Ted, it kind of came across in a couple of different ways. It's not only, in my mind, just chasing ratings. It's also just maintaining the momentum to fly. I know several people who went out and got their license and then just for whatever reason, maybe stopped flying. Maybe it was boring for them, or they just, I don't know. I'm chasing time. Brian's chasing ratings. Ted's doing his glider certification. We all are putting something on the calendar to keep the ball moving. But I wanted to kind of hit it across all contexts, not just chasing ratings. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
So, I just got off the multi-engine commercial add-on, and we've made no secret. I'm looking for work. I'm at a little over 1,350 hours. I'm hireable now, but I'm a lot more desirable when I get to 1,500 hours and get my ATP. So yes, I have a strong interest in flying a lot. A, I just like doing it, but B, there is a means to the end. I have some other requirements that I need to hit. I need to get some more multi-time, as I mentioned earlier. I've been shopping around for block time. It's putting stuff on the calendar for me is how I keep this ball rolling. I used to run a lot. I used to run endurance races. The only way I would train for a race is if I signed up for a race and gave myself a deadline. You got to have something put out there that is going to keep you moving along. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah. If these days, and I think in midlife, that's about as midlife as it gets, is if it's not on the calendar, it's not real. And it's just imaginary wanting. It's not a plan, or it's not going to happen. And there's too many things lurking in the shadows, looking to take or interrupt or hijack your time from too many angles. So I think that protecting your time is a huge way to start and keep momentum. I think that for me also, with the things that I've been doing in terms of a lot of written tests and instrument rating and then now commercial, but and keeping in mind for those that don't know, I mean, I started flying, my first lesson was in April of 2021. And then I VFR'd myself all over the universe for 700 or 800 hours or whatever. And then finally had the opportunity and the means to eke by an instrument rating. It took a lot. When I was doing my private instruction, I think for all of us, it's hard to get back into this. We haven't taken a written test of any kind in so long, and you get that done. But then if you just put that energy back down, you have a sigh of relief because you've finished that thing. But then to pick it back up again, there's a little bit of I don't know, it's almost harder in a way because you're so relieved to have been through the first hurdle. So for me, having a huge space again between my initial studies and private rating and then now instrument and all the things I did to do that, it took a long time to get myself into the fever pitch of taking written tests again. And I would say a perfect example of seizing momentum would be what I did in December when I took 5 written tests in 32 days, which is, it is so hard for me to get lathered up enough to have the will and the desire to do that.
Yeah.
That if I don't do it, if I get off this train, I'm not getting back on. It's not unlike being a midlifer and your friend is saying, let's go to a concert that starts at 9:00, and if you decide to go to that concert at 9:00, which is absolutely ridiculous. Who does that, right? We all did, right?
Yeah.
I played in bands, to where we're not even going on until 12:30.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was what we called fun. And now, if I'm going to do anything remotely close to that, if the show starts at 9:00, I can't go home. I have to stay out or if I walk through the doors of my house, it's over. It's over. And I find studying and a lot of the momentum for aviation to be kind of similar. It's not that there's such a completely adversarial relationship with it, but it's just that much harder to get lathered up to do this thing. So, there is this, take a breath of relief and then your energy disappears and then you've got to recapture that and it can almost be harder. So for me, the momentum has been almost taking things to a absurd level, because if I don't do that, it's not, if I'm just nursing something along, it's not intensive enough for me to have the command over it with my energy and the will and the fired upness to see it through.
You alluded to it earlier. You went through all of this studying and then now you're starting back with the commercial training. And I think you said something to the effect of, I'm now having to re-enter that phase. It's picking that momentum back up, but there is absolutely something to that.
Yeah, but the other thing I'll just weave into there, which I do want to hear from you guys too, about how you've done this, because I know everybody has their own way of doing this, which is in your practice and in your experience of having achieved a couple of ratings or a couple of endorsements or the things, or even just experiences, it doesn't have to be all about ratings. Could you, or do you find that you have developed some processes and some ways of going about things to where you're just better at focusing on what is essential, and you know enough about your learning process and your practices to where you know where to trim the fat and how to direct your energy? Do you find that, Ted?
That's something I was thinking about was at this age, hopefully you understand how your brain works or how you study best. And we're not coming straight out of college or straight out of high school or anything like that, where it was a mystery how to study and that type of thing. We haven't done it a long time, but you have a pretty good idea how you learn or don't learn, whatever. For me, momentum is such a key word because in that learning process, it's really important for me to study every day. It's so easy. And I bicycle like Ben runs, and it's like, you do that, man, you miss 2 days, you've missed 2 weeks. And as soon as you miss it, you're gone. You just lost that momentum. And I've had the same thing when I've been studying, especially aviation things. It isn't the most exciting thing to study. I'd rather fly than read the PHAC and whatever else is involved. But every day, got to open it up, got to do the next part of the lesson, got to read the next thing, got to, whatever it is, do something every day. That doesn't mean you're going to spend 3 hours every day. If you are one of those people that can schedule, 47 minutes every morning where you always do this, it's good for you, but I'm not. For me, it's, man, can I just get it open? I may study for an hour and a half. I may get 5 minutes. It doesn't really matter. Just got to stay with it. And, that motivation kind of wanes, and it depends what else is going on in your life. And if you have good weather and you're actually out flying instead of studying, but you stay with it. And if you have a written test coming up, or you have a goal, then it's a lot easier in my case.
I like that you asked that question, because every time I'm starting a new whatever, I will read of a study method that, I'll give that a shot. Or I'm always trying new things to absorb information, but it always comes right back to the same way that I do it every single time. And I waste a little bit of time doing it, but I am trying to try new things. It does help at least keep the momentum alive. But for me, it's just sitting down and chair flying, moving my hands, doing whatever I need to do. For multi, I am, using, literally pretending I'm pulling back one of the mixtures, going through the flows physically with my hands is how I got myself to where I needed to be. Memorizing acronyms was not the way for me to do it. It's the actual physical, tactile touching of things. Even if it's not a real prop lever, I'm going to pretend like one's there. So it's different. You're
driving your car, dead leg, dead engine.
That's the brake's dead, so I guess we're going. But a dead brake, dead engine. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and if I skip over something, y'all pull me back, but the loss of momentum I've been feeling significantly, and I'm still kicking myself. I knew that our plane was going down for annual, and I also knew that I needed multi-time. But to your point, and the other point that I made earlier, not having put anything on the calendar and not lining everything up, I could have been flying while my plane was in annual.
Yeah.
And if I'd have done my homework a little bit sooner, it's all on me, and I'm not blaming anybody else for it. But I look at that as a significant momentum killer. And I'm about to feel the pain of that as I start building it up. Lord willing, we're going to put the plane back in the shop for some avionics, and I know that might take a while. So I'm at least going to have other avenues to fly, be it tailwheel or multi or whatever the case may be, while the plane's down again. Because for nothing else, to keep that momentum going.
so much of this is psychological, and the barrier to this, the kind of the membrane of stasis, there's some sort of seal that you have to break if something's been left still for a minute, it's like the top, what are they, what was it, Seinfeld, the pudding tops. It's like there's this hardening, of that membrane of the thing that you're trying to get to, that if you let it sit, it just becomes harder to pierce and to get stirred up and going again. And even the smallest things can do a really good job of keeping that going. So what would be some recommendations you guys might have for those that are in a position where they're not necessarily in a place right now where they're trying to get an instrument rating or even an endorsement or anything formalized in that sense? And what would be some suggestions for people that are just trying to approximate that feeling momentum and keep that momentum while not necessarily taking on the gravity of a full-on task or project?
I think it's important. Obviously, if you're going through active training, it's you understand you need to get on a CFI's calendar. You need to have your plane rented and whatever the case may be. Even outside of that, you kind of need those personal minimums or those goals. I'm going to fly every other weekend for sure. I'm going to make sure that I don't go more than 2 weeks, maybe every week. Those types of goals, and in those kind of 20 to 200 hour range, that makes a big difference. When you're coming out of getting your ticket and you've been flying for 6 months, boy, that's when you're really learning. And
when you're really poor.
When you're really poor, that too. But as usual, you lose it from that if you don't have that recency of flight. There's always things you can do on those flights, but just don't go a month, don't go 2 months, whatever the case is, to wherever your goal is. Make sure that you are actually flying a little bit.
I would add to that, ask an instructor to go up with you and do a flight review. It doesn't matter if it's been 2 years or not. Go up and challenge yourself with something. All you're saying is, instead of going and getting another rating or another certificate, whatever, just go up with them and practice some stalls. Okay, do a power off 180, whatever. But do something that it's not in your normal wheelhouse. Expand it. Go up with an instructor at night. It's another, if you don't have a lot of night hours, sign up for some pilot and pause missions. There's a lot of things you can do to kind of help keep that ball going. Did you want to get that comment, Brian?
Yeah. So Bill Sarge in the chat here is saying, I love flying, but I'll admit sometimes I get hung up on the where am I going part. I don't always want to just go bore holes in the sky. Curious how you all pick your missions. So this is fantastic. I think a lot of people find themselves in this place. There's so much focus on just getting through the private pilot certificate. And then you kind of get out there and you almost have forgotten why I even started doing this. It's been so much work. And then even once you've been established for a while, then, what do you do? And there's only so many $100 hamburgers or, things like that. I am a huge fan of personal challenges. It's one thing to collect new airports, that you've maybe not been to before, which we don't have a passport program here, but I've kept track of every airport that I landed at, put it on a Google map. That helps me whenever I'm feeling even remotely like this feeling of where do I want to go? If I have all of these things geo-mapped, I can go and see patterns. I can see, you know what? I really haven't, there's this whole sort of line out maybe towards the southwest of here that I haven't really explored. And there's several airports out there. And I just would like to populate some more coordinates on my map. I mean, even if it's just that's something. But even further, you can go even further by working some practice things into it. So for instance, power off 180s. I've talked about this before, but people generally do power off 180s airports that they are familiar with, which I think is great, and you should. All that said, one thing that I have done several times is I've told myself I'm going to go to an airport that is completely new to me, and I'm going to do a power off 180 to land there. And so you don't have the geometry, landmarks. It used to just be hard enough just to find the airport. But now I've gotten pretty good at finding airports and leveraging the tools to find the airports and all of that. Arriving at a new airport to me is not really especially challenging now. I mean, depending on the scenario, but I mean, generally it's just not really a challenge. But if you're going into it going, well, I'm coming in here power off. I've got to judge this freshly. That's just one example of many weird little layers or exponents that you can put around doing quote unquote normal things that make it a little bit more challenging for yourself or a little bit more interesting. And I also think that for me, a younger person to me just a couple of days ago, she was saying, I've really got to figure out something. Like I'm finding myself really bored lately. And I just thought, I've never been bored for a microsecond my entire life. I don't even know what does that mean to be bored? I don't understand it. So my curiosity level is so high that everything is interesting to me, like just wildly interesting. I can go to the most mundane airport and get out and walk around, and I'm fascinated by something that I'm seeing or experiencing or is new, or get a courtesy car and go into some weird town and just start talking to the people. I've got videos where I go to little mountain towns and go talk to people that run a yarn shop, or I don't know, like who cares? Like everything's interesting. Everything's fascinating. Just maybe open up your intellectual curiosity a little bit. Flying is just a vehicle to explore other curiosities. So I don't know. Those are some of the things that I think about, making it a little bit more challenging to get into new places, and then actually just going and exploring new places for the sake of culture.
Yeah, I think you can kind of categorize this in a couple of ways. The one is use it to expand your horizons, whether that's new airport, going into town at a place, that type of thing. There's also kind of expanding your ability, which is again a big deal in the 20 to 200 hour range. Can I handle more wind? Am I comfortable going up without an instructor and going to, in my case, it was going to the very windy airport and practicing there. The other thing I want to point out is that Mark, Wendell Geek, put out a great video, long time ago, 3-4 years ago, called Past Checkride, Still Doing Checkride Prep. And that was something that really imprinted on me a lot, which was if he was doing it every 3 months, every 6 months, he was going out and doing the private pilot checkride maneuvers. That is a great thing to go do, is make sure that you're proficient on those still. And I've done those. I was thinking when you're talking about flying 180s at a new airport, I've done the emergency from 3,000 feet where you go down and instead of picking a field at 500 feet and going around, land in that field. And in my case, I'm talking about, a grass field, because what a great way to see if you can actually do it and how comfortable you are with that.
This is advice only certain people can or should take.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can also use an airport, but you definitely, using those,
if you're
reminding
a
yourself what your skills are. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're not very much fun, you can find pavement. But reminding yourself what those skills are and seeing how judging yourself on them is really important, is really interesting to do. Ben?
I completely agree with that. And I had forgotten about Mark's video on that. And I try to do at least one private pilot. And sometimes I try to do a commercial pilot maneuver as well. Once a month, once every couple of months. The thing that I was going to add to it is giving myself different types of challenges. I realize that all of our listeners are going to be at different points in their their aviation paths. We're going to have some private pilots, instruments, commercials. Get creative. I have a goal to land at there's no passport, but I have a goal to land at every airport, public use airport in the state of Georgia. That required me to figure out a way to land my 182 at Hartsfield. If you've never flown into a Charlie, go find a Charlie and go experience that. All of us are going to be at different levels, but there are a million ways to challenge yourself. And I mentioned it earlier, sign up for a pilots and pause mission. Or if you've got an instrument rating and the hours, go sign up for an Angel flight. Or even better yet, a Freedom Aviation flight. There are a lot of different ways that you can, and it's all about keeping the momentum going. I have too many times lost my momentum and found that getting back on the horse is just takes more time. And it's so much easier just to keep it going. I know that we've got our friend Nathan Ballard in the chat. There's a part of me right now that's considering getting my CFI for the sole purpose of keeping my learning momentum going. I said it. I'm not saying that I'm doing it yet, but it's about just doing whatever you can to move it. Mr. Easy G says, I've done my instrument ground and have been trying to build the courage to do my written and start flying with an instructor. Well, here's what I would tell you. Schedule that lesson. Put it on your calendar.
And the written.
Yeah. And the written. Yeah. Do the written. That will really kind of light a fire for you to do the rest of it.
If anything, it puts a 2-year clock on.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
So I'm not doing that again. Yeah. Shout out to our friend Adam, who just passed the instrument written for the second time with the same score of 97.
But did we ever find out, did he miss the same questions?
I think so. I don't know.
Okay.
But
okay.
You never really know. But yeah. So to wrap this up, I just want to put in people's brains that if you feel like you're doing the same old things and you just don't have momentum to try something new, think about the feeling that you had when you accomplished something great, when you accomplished getting your private pilot certificate, or when you had a really good flight or a really good lesson if you haven't even finished your private certificate yet. Just remember what that feeling is, because that reward is there for you all the time. And you can get back to that feeling at any time in even small doses, and don't come up with reasons why you can't. Just come up with reasons why you will, and just I don't know, make like Nike, man. Just do it. There's so much talk about currency versus proficiency, but they don't talk about all the surrounding kind of connective tissue and all of that, and if it's something that makes you nervous, if going and landing at the big airport, makes you nervous, if anything gives you an uncomfortable feeling, that is the thing to get passionate about and figure out a way to go conquer it or do it. Everybody's got a weakness. And when you identify a weakness, or when you realize that you're shying away from something, identify that thing, put some definition around that thing, and go after that thing. And then once you've done that a couple of times, you'll feel, I think, a more pronounced sense of agency over your own strength to do this stuff. So that's what I would leave everybody with. What do you guys got?
When you said, do the things that make you uncomfortable, I think of that Far Side cartoon where the guy wants to get over his fears of heights, snakes, and closed-in spaces. So they put him in a phone booth filled up with snakes hanging over a skyscraper. He says, I'm going to get rid of all my fears at once.
There you go.
Ted, anything else that you want to put in there? You're muted.
So I am. Wow. It was so brilliant what I had said as well.
Well, too bad for everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. I kept through training, I kind of kept a list of things, and I recommend doing that, which is, number one, write down a good handful of things that you have goals for, things you'd like to go see, do, whatever in the plane. It can be getting better at something. It can be landing somewhere. Doesn't matter, whatever it is. The other list is, what are your weaknesses? What are the things that you need to improve? It's not how you're going to get there. It's just write those down. Then when you're sitting there and you're thinking, I don't know, I don't want to fly. I've got nowhere to go, that type of thing. Now you've got this list of the places that you have wanted to go, and it kind of prompts you of that ability. The other thing that I would do when I was renting was, you have that list and it's like, oh, I've got 15 minutes extra. My flight's coming over early. So great. I forgot, I haven't done steep turns in quite a while. Let me go out and just knock a couple of those out. I've got that little bit extra time, do it then. So that's where that list comes in handy for me. What about you, Ben?
Nice. Well, we want to remind everyone, please leave us a 5-star review. It really does help the algorithm, helps get us out to more midlifers. We would appreciate that. And send us a review. We'll definitely read it on the air. And, go to the website, do the things. Tonight's words of wisdom, I want you to know that I picked this out at 3:00 this afternoon, but it is apropos to what we've been talking about tonight. So there are two kinds of people in the world: those who think they can and those who think they can't. And they're both right. Signing off, episode 177 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.